Now starting Creating Worlds that Inspire to Go Beyond. A speaker presentation by Matthew Hogan, founder and CEO of M3D Technologies.
Founder and CEO of M3D Technologies. Over the last 5 years, M3D Technologies has evaluated various XR devices, everything from omnidirectional treadmills to full haptic bodysuits, haptic gloves, VR headsets, and then integrated all these into immersive solutions, essentially building the Ready Player One system. But this didn't happen overnight. So my journey of being a business owner, entrepreneur, started shortly after I got out of the Navy in 2005, came back to Orlando. Now, my history here in Orlando begins way before then. In 1987, my family moved from Anchorage, Alaska to Central Florida. So we went from one end of the country to the other. So two totally different extremes. So I have a lot of history here in Orlando. My father, who was also an Army captain in the United States Army Huey helicopter pilots, when he got out in 1987 and came here to Orlando, it was very hard for him to find work. There's not a lot of jobs that require, helicopter pilots, and the ones that were taken, or the ones that were available, were taken by a lot of Vietnam vets that got out during that time period. So for years, my dad struggled trying to find work, but eventually wound up finding prosthetics and orthotics. So that's where my entrepreneurial spirit began, is watching my father for over 30 years build artificial arms and legs within the prosthetic and orthotics industry. So, like I said, my dad was Army, I'm Navy, so I'm fourth generation military. I have a long lineage of actually serving, but I'm the only squid, as we call ourselves, in the family. Everybody else is Army, so holidays are always interesting when we get together. That being said, joined shortly after September 11th. It was April 1st of 2002. Left Tampa, went up to Great Lakes to go get my basic training. After basic, I went to Pensacola, learned how to become an aviation mechanic, and worked on the hydraulic systems of F-16s and F-18s. My first ship that I was deployed to was the USS Ronald Reagan. Now, at the time, I didn't know that it was still under construction, but when I graduated within the top 5 percentile of my class, you got to pick your orders. And I saw USS Ronald Reagan, San Diego, California. When I got my final orders, it was USS Ronald Reagan, Newport News, Virginia, to be announced, San Diego, California. So for almost about an entire year, I had to sit there and watch my ship being built. When we finally got our flight deck qualifications and our sea trials underway, and we were actually doing missions, kind of just going out and doing short trial tests, when we actually came back, we were in port, fire breaks out on the ship, I'm running down with a CO2 bottle, DC crew's coming up, I step off to the side to let them up, I fall over the rail, my ankle gets caught in the ladder well, snaps in 3 separate spots. So 4 plates, 6 screws, 5 pins later, and a lot of physical therapy, which I had never completed, they went ahead and honorably medically discharged me. So came back to Orlando. So that was 2005, come back to Orlando. While I was in the Navy, a lot of our downtime, my fellow shipmates and I, we would actually utilize, the early mixing software programs like EJ Hip Hop and Fruity Loops, and we would make our own tracks and just kind of kill some time. And we were building our own little mini studios. So I was trying to find what I wanted to do once I got out. So got into production. Early on, went to go work for Discovery Channel. Was doing audio production for them, worked for Women's Entertainment, did a lot of the shoots here in Orlando when Women's Entertainment was still around, also the History Channel. So it was about 2007 that I actually decided that I wanted to kind of do something more than just be an audio engineer. Went to Full Sail University for Business Entertainment and Audio Engineering. In 2008, I decided to make the leap of going into entrepreneurship and decided to open up a recording studio in downtown Orlando. Let's talk about 2008. If you guys remember what was going on at that time, we had a huge crisis and the market crash, especially here in Central Florida with the housing market. So a lot of musicians that had that disposable income, that kind of went away. but we were able to still survive. And what I mean by that is we were kind of branching out just beyond the independent artists. We actually started reaching out to churches. We started reaching out to festivals that were in the town, and we were able to kind of support those things. But after a few years of being in the music industry and recording artists, as much as I love making music, I got tired of herding cats, as I call musicians. They're wonderful, but I'll tell you what, my God, just to try to get them on the same schedule was always an uphill battle. So I wanted a career change, and I started taking a look at other areas of production. That was when I discovered 3D modeling and animation. So decided to go back to school, and I actually wound up going to the Dave School, which is on the back end lot at Universal Studios, where I learned how to do 3D modeling, VFX effects, game build-outs, movie production. What drew me to the Dave School is that they had a full-on movie soundstage with full-on motion capture built into there. It was a huge draw for me. So that's where I discovered a new set of skills, which was in the world of 3D. Now, a lot of my fellow classmates, they went into VFX effects studios. They went to go work for the bigs, Marvel, DC. But it wasn't until 2013 that I was at Megatonn, and I was going down Artist Alley, taking a look at all the different vendors, and I found this thing on this table, and I was fascinated by it. I was doing this thing, and I asked the guy, I go, what is that? And he goes, that's a 3D printer. I go, okay. Let me get this straight. I can now take what I build in a 3D software program and turn it into a tangible thing. And he goes, yes. And I go, that's my light bulb moment. So in 2015, we launched, I don't have the video. There it is. We launched Megatonn 3D. So we started in 2015, and we were an industrial additive manufacturing company. We had the large scale printers of the ProJet series from 3D Systems. We had DLP printers. We were servicing Disney, Universal Studios, Nickelodeon. I made mention before, one of my nightmare prints is Dora the Explorer. I printed out that head so many times that I have nightmares still to this day. I have still the remaining Dora Explorer failed prints at my house, and I've joked about possibly turning them into the Kiss band Dora the Explorer, but anyways. So we were building maquettes for Nickelodeon, Universal Studios. We were even building our own FPV racing drones, designing our own chassis. That was fun, especially when you have to understand the tensile strength of the plastics that you're using, because you put high-speed motors on ABS plastic and you go to fly and they explode. So we were designing our own FPV racing drones. We were basically building prosthetics and orthotic prototypes as well. We did projects for UCF where we designed actual medical attachment devices for scoliosis patients. So during that time period of running and operating Megatonn 3D, we started seeing the rise of VR, right? We started seeing Samsung with the Samsung Gear VR, and the Oculus Rift came out. And I started talking to my team. I was like, look, we really need to kind of start taking a look at this technology, because I think it's going to have a dramatic impact, not only just, of course, gaming, but how we learn, how we teach, how we train, how we engage. So in 2020, Megatonn 3D was still around, but 2020 we decided to go ahead and make that shift, going from additive manufacturing to a full-on VR production studio that focused on simulation and training, specifically because I am a service-disabled veteran. So 2020, we go, all right, we're making the shift, and then in 2021 we finally formalized M3D Technologies. So that's just kind of a little bit of background of the last 20 years of where, all of this is a culmination of where I'm at today. That being said, this was the first time that we were able to start to kind of do the integration. We had our space over in Winter Park. We had the omnidirectional treadmill, which is built by a company called Infinitec, and yes, it was featured in the movie Ready Player One. We still joke to this day that we found Infinitec 2 weeks before Spielberg did. And since then, we've been building large-scale environments for the Infinitec. Actually, our first digital twin that we did was a 1-to-1 scale of Stonehenge. But before we get into that, before all of that happened, before we even got the Infinidec here, let's talk about trials and tribulations that you'll face as a business owner. So in 2020, we're right now smack dab at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm supposed to get this unit being shipped by UPS. So it leaves Sacramento, California on November 11th, and I'm talking to Ben Freeman, who's the COO, and we're finally getting the Infinidec shipped after six months of negotiating to get it here. Now, we've been building the environments for over 2.5 years, but it was the first time that we were actually going to get an omnidirectional treadmill. As a matter of fact, we were the first company on the East Coast to have one of these. We were the only company in Central Florida at the time to also have this as well. But when it got shipped, I got the tracking number, and it was supposed to arrive on the 16th of November. 16th of November shows up, and there's no crate. So I call UPS, and I'm like, hey, I'm expecting this package. It hasn't shown up. Where is it? Half an hour later, she goes, Mr. Hogan, let me go ahead and try to find this. Half an hour later, she comes back and goes, Mr. Hogan, I hate to tell you this, but we can't find it. What do you mean you can't find 1,000-pound crate, your UPS, RFID tag readers, all of that? And they're like, we're gonna have to, look into this, we'll get back to you. So I call up Infinidec to find out, hey, just wanna let you know, Ben, UPS lost the package. He's like, you're kidding me? I said, no. So there was almost 3 or 4 days going back and forth of trying to find out where the unit was at. Meanwhile, I had teams ready to see the Infinidec. I had a deadline just before Thanksgiving of groups coming out to see this to potentially invest in the company. So when I finally got the phone call back from UPS, they were like, hey, we found your unit. Great, where is it? And they said it's in Wyoming. Why is it in Wyoming? Well, that's not even the bad news. Oh, there's more. Okay, what is it? Well, the train is broken down and we don't know when it's going to be fixed. Okay. So this is what I want to talk about: being perseverance, being persistent, doing whatever it takes. So as soon as we found out that it was going to be almost an entire 2 weeks before it would come out to there, I called up Ben Freeman at Infinidec and said, hey, I am flying out. I am picking up the next unit. He said, all right, we'll see you. So my father and I get on a plane the very next day, fly out 8 hours to Sacramento, California. And we were like, all right, we'll just get a box truck when we get there. There were no box trucks. Everybody was leaving California because it was COVID. People were just fleeing the entire area. So the only thing that was available was a Ford F-250 pickup truck. And we put this thing on the back of the pickup truck and then drove 57 hours straight from Sacramento, California to Orlando.
With it open?
With it open.
Oh my gosh.
So as we're driving across the country, literally states are closing behind us because of COVID. New Mexico shut down, Arizona shut down, Texas. We barely made it into Florida, but we got here. So we finally set it up, right? One of the main reasons why we wanted to get the unit here is because we were already talking with UCF and looking at doing some research with the Infinidec. So just wanted to give some context on kind of the mentality of M3D is we do whatever it takes. So this is our timeline. Over the last 5 years, I said we've evaluated various XR technologies. So in 2021, acquisition of hardware of the Infinidec. Then we started looking in 2022 with our partnership with UCF and the case study that we did with them to understand the sense of presence inside of digital twins utilizing XR technologies. We landed some projects with the Air Force to design custom controllers. Then in 2024, we launched one of our latest products, the Merge system. And then, of course, looking into 2025, we've done activations, accelerator programs, showcasing the technologies. I will go over all of this through the slides. All right, so the UCF case study, Lieutenant Colonel Fred Martin was Dr. Harrington's grad student, active duty, but was conducting this case study to understand how can we train soldiers better, right? Utilizing XR devices, headsets, desktops, or omnidirectional treadmills. It consisted of 15 subjects broken up into 3 groups of 5. The purpose was that you could stay as long as you want inside of the environment, but at the end of your session, you had to draw as detailed of a map as possible. So UCF literally did an entire digital twin of the UCF Arboretum utilizing photogrammetry and Unreal 4.2. So they designed and built the digital twin. We provided the XR hardware. Each group, like I said, could stay up to a full hour, but at the end of it had to draw a detailed map as possible. So the first group that was with the desktop stayed about 20 minutes, kind of navigated through the space, drew a map and passed it off. The second group was just in a single VR headset. They stayed for about 15 minutes, kind of teleported through the space. Some of them started experiencing motion sickness because that was one of the criteria that you could have never used VR before. So that was one of the stipulations. So, however, the third group, the group with the omnidirectional treadmill and the VR headset, not only stayed for the full hour, they were the only group to talk to themselves. As they were walking around the digital twin, they were like, wait a minute, I've already been here. Hey, let me go check out this. Not only did they stay the full hour, they didn't even realize that they were in VR for an entire hour. Why was that? It was because they were able to physically interact with the digital content. So what we discovered at the end of it was that retention went up 70%. They were the only group to draw the most detailed map out of all three subject groups. Not only were they able to draw the most detailed map, but again, they were able to retain all of the information. They had a full detailed journal. Every asset in the digital twin was a clickable asset. So you could click on the tree and a drop-down menu would pop up and give you all the attributes of that. So we discovered because users were able to physically interact with it, the engagement that, was at higher levels. There was more of an emotional response with it, right? Because again, they were the only group to talk to themselves. The sense of presence, because again, outside of just on a desktop, which, you know, we've been utilizing, you know, keyboard functionalities and mouse for over 20 years now, well over 20 years. And then people in the single VR headset had more difficulties just trying to figure out how to navigate. But because they were able to physically walk, their sense of presence was greater. So the other thing that it did, it eliminated the cybersickness. Like, whereas when you teleport, most of you know this, your eyes are seeing that you're moving forward, but your brain is like, wait, my feet are planted, and it causes that motion sickness. So I also say it's the hardware that remains the same as the content that changes in the engagement. So we identified use cases for physical therapy and occupational therapy, but we also showcased this at ITSEC. And if you guys are familiar with ITSEC, it's the largest simulation and training conference that takes place here in Orlando. It's been going on for 30 plus years, over 93 countries from all over the world, 50,000 people in attendance to actually see the latest sim technology that's being developed to either train, educate, or save lives.
It was my first time trying it. Normally I get really motion sick in VR, but that was really interesting to be able to walk. It felt a lot more natural.
So we leveraged the technologies of XR and then basically the game engine themselves, and through the content is how we actually engage with different industries, right? So digital twins is one of the things that we have also built. View Studios, if you've ever been to it, it's no longer in existence, which is a shame, but we did a full digital twin of View Studios utilizing LiDAR and photogrammetry. So we took a virtual production studio, scanned the interior and exterior, brought it into the game engine itself, and at ITSEC 2023, we had people show up at View during the conference, walking around in the digital twin of View Studios while they were at View Studios on the Infinideck. So it was like Inception. So we do digital twin content. We also build our own custom controllers. The Air Force reached out to us a few years ago and said, hey, we bought a whole bunch of Pro 2 headsets. We're trying to train our Air Force maintenance people on how to utilize proper procedures and techniques. However, the problem that they were facing was that yes, you could put a person in VR, but they were doing all of their controlled actions through the motion controller. So this is not natural to do a screwdriver with a motion controller or utilize this pneumatic drill. So going back from our past experience of 3D printing, we were able to design custom controllers for the Air Force. So what the user was seeing in VR was matching what was in their hand, so that we were creating that muscle memory. We also designed a rocket launcher, and who doesn't like to blow shit up? Let me go here. Oops, sorry. So outside of the rocket launcher, and I'll show a quick video of it. So we showcased this last year, not only as a single user system, but we also integrated it with another platform, which is our Merge platform. The other issue that we faced with the Air Force was that all of our controllers are in a program of record, but they couldn't do direct purchasing until they had the right server racks for them, because the company that they hired was supposed to build a portable server rack, and their version of a portable server rack was over 900 pounds and could not fit through a double door. So we had to design our own modular server rack system to actually get our purchase of our XR controllers to the Air Force. So we had to problem solve another problem for the Air Force by designing a modular server rack. So that's another product that we also offer outside of the custom controllers. Now, Merge. This is our latest product that we just launched last year. How many people are familiar with motion capture? Okay. How many people understand, like, you know, the painstaking process of getting on the suit, calibration, all of that, right? Okay. Think of motion capture now without the suit. But we've gone beyond that. Instead of just tracking an individual and creating animations with it, we've now been able to track the individual and turn them into the controller. So now it's gesture-based. I can now interact with digital content with no wearables by utilizing gestures. Oh, come on, maybe not go play. There we go. So we went from wearables to non-wearables, right? And the things that we discovered with wearable technology, XR, right? Headsets, omnidirectional treadmills, haptic gloves, haptic suits. This is a one-to-one interaction, right? And then these are all things that I have to sanitize, right? I gotta basically sanitize my headset. I gotta sanitize the Tesla suit. I can't throw the Tesla suit in a washing machine. I gotta get a special steamer for it. So these were barriers of entry, especially on the physical therapy and occupational therapy side of things. Even getting somebody into a Tesla suit who is healthy, it's like putting on a scuba suit, right? Now try to put a stroke victim into a Tesla suit, or try to put a person who's an amputee into a Tesla suit. It's not gonna happen. But for us, it was always the data. We always wanted to capture the data to understand how a patient is performing during their therapy from week to week. So we've gone from wearables to non-wearables.
This is going to revolutionize physical therapy on so many different levels. I'm Matthew Hogan, founder and CEO of M3D Technologies. We're here today with our partners, District Cinema, to showcase our latest product, Merge.
Merge is used across a couple different industries. Today we're showcasing the medical use case. We also have a use case with sports, with university and professional teams, the integration between markerless motion tracking and LED wall for virtual production, as well as some great tech to gamify physical therapy rehabilitation.
Imagine doing your physical therapy on the beach, on PCH Highway. That's what they get to experience, all while their providers are getting real-time data, real-time tracking to monitor their care progression.
So here we have our patient today that I'm going to get set up into our merge system here. So if you want to go and step inside so I can get you your skeleton. Put your arms up for me there. Excellent. All right, and now that he has a skeleton here, we can go ahead and get it started. So go ahead and begin the treadmill. So now here, the patient can be set up with a bunch of different options for their physical training. So Taylor, if you'd like to extend your arm out for me and do some shoulder rotations. As these points here hit it, it activates the rock down there that can float it. And we can customize any of these actions to do any motions we need them to make and also to do any kind of interaction we want.
This is a huge improvement to where physical therapy was at just a few years ago.
What we're doing, what's really exciting, is we're changing the landscape of patient care when it comes to rehabilitative medicine.
So this platform got us into the Sphere Accelerator program just this past year through VEI. We were one of 9 companies selected out of 138 candidates across the globe. We were able to showcase Merge as a platform for not only human performance, but now also producing quantifiable outcomes for physical therapy and occupational therapy. We now understand where a patient is at week to week based upon the data that we're collecting. We're getting flexion, abduction, rotation, velocity, force impact with no wearables. Quick couple of other slides. These are our organization and partners that we've been working with here in Central Florida for over the last 5 years. These are some of the companies that we've actually serviced through our technologies and through hardware and software capabilities. This is the amazing team that is developing the magic that's upstairs. So if you were here for the Game Jam this weekend, we are right upstairs. If you want to come up and take a look at rocket launchers, maintenance tools, the Merge system, you want to blow shit up, please, I invite you to come upstairs and do it. Other than that, I really do appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much.
Want to check out more from the AWE Nite Orlando Immersive Intelligence Lab? Watch more talks and presentations from our incredible XR plus AI innovators. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like.
Nite Orlando.